Right. So in that last video, we talked about the PAS framework, powerful framework. In this video, we're going to be talking about the HSO framework. And this is a really powerful framework because it is all about shifting belief and inspiring desire and curiosity using the power of story, right? Three main elements, just like all the other short form copy frameworks I'm teaching you. One is hook, two is the story, three is the offer. HSO, simple. The hook is the part where you catch their attention and get them invested into reading the story and discovering an answer to this newfound curiosity that you've instilled in them, right? Usually it's based around one really strong fascination. This is the bribe you're going to use to get them to read the story and open themselves up to being influenced by you, right? You're about to launch into a story. You need to earn the right or sort of bribe them to engage with the story. You do this with that main hook. Simple fascination, which you've practiced many times by now. Once you've earned the right to tell them a story, you then launch into the actual heavy lifting part of the copy, which is the story. Now, humans, you have to understand, humans have evolved to learn, absorb information, change their beliefs, and make decisions through the power of stories, right? You have to think about it. For like thousands and thousands and thousands of years, before writing even existed, our ancestors transferred knowledge, values, and information through stories, right? If you look at books of scripture, like the Bible or other books of scripture, like a big chunk of it is stories, because stories, apart from like an actual sermon that's like, teaches something, a story can shift beliefs and shift and inspire and guide people really effectively. It's how we've evolved to pass information. So you can use story as well as a copywriter, right? One of the cool reasons that stories are so effective are that they allow the reader to sympathetically experience the same emotions and transformations as the characters inside, right? When you watch a movie, you sort of experience the same emotional roller coaster as the reader, right? You experience the same terror, the same excitement, the same happiness, the same sadness. Obviously not as the same magnitude, but you're along for the ride, right? Which is powerful, right? Because this allows you to, as the person telling the story, you can resonate with the reader, you can shift important beliefs, but with different elements inside the story, and you can direct them to take action, all by how you tell the story, how you orchestrate the story. Now, basically all moving human stories, the stories that really move people, they all follow the same, what's called hero's journey, right? Now, it's a cyclical sort of process, right? And if you think about any major story that you've grown up like with, or you've watched as a person, right? Anything that's involved a hero, you think of the Batman movies or anything like that, they follow this pattern, right? There's the call to adventure. Well, first of all, like, people live in this known world and then they venture into the unknown worlds, right? So Batman's living his nice little cushy life as a kid. Parents get killed. He's called to go and become the Batman, to go and like do this. So he steps into the unknown world. He faces all these challenges and temptations, difficulties, ups, downs, but then he reaches this moment of absolute failure where all seems to be lost. That's where he rises to the occasion, achieves what he needs to do, is able to be successful, and then he comes back to Gotham City with all the power that he gained, right? And it kind of, the process repeats itself. Obviously, heroes' journeys kind of go up and down. They continue, and there's different peaks and valleys over like, someone's life or a series or something like that. But the same pattern this is how you tell stories, right? And in a short form copy, you might not use all of these elements. You might kind of do some of these in the fast forward and skip this part or skip that. But this is basically the arc that every story needs to follow. And here's some important tips to keep in mind as you're writing short form stories in your short form copy. You usually, when you're starting to tell the story, you want to start the story at the height of drama, right? If you want to capture the reader's attention right off the bat, one of the best ways to do it is to start right there at that moment where all seems to be lost, the biggest, scariest, most dramatic part of it. Because if you start with that and then you start back and then you go back in time and lead up to that point, you notice a lot of movies, a lot of things do this. They start at the very beginning of, like, the moment where it all seems like all hope is lost, and then they'll go back and tell the whole story that leads up to that moment and then go beyond that, right? It's a powerful tool to grab someone's attention, right? Think like Bond film trailers, right? Like when you watch a trailer for a Bond movie, Like there's these little clips where he's in danger, he's successful. There's these little high dramatic points. You get little tiny clips, little glimpses. You don't know how he got there, but you're curious, and that's why you go see the movie, right? So you can start the story at the very height of drama if you want to capture their attention. Another thing you want to keep in mind when you're doing this, you want to make sure that the main character is actually relatable to the reader. Like it's important, like sure that there's some aspirational elements, that they want to become like this. Whoever's telling the story, whoever the character is, like they would like to become like this person because they've been successful where they haven't. But the reader needs to be able to identify with that main character, right? At least at the beginning of the story, they need to be able to see themselves as that character. They need to feel like they relate to that character for them to be able to emotionally invest in sort of riding along that that emotional roller coaster of the story, right? So they can actually experience the shift in beliefs and the desire and stuff like that. A really easy, you need to make sure your avatar and your main character match, right? You guys probably all know this, right? Like if you're a young man and you're watching a movie where the main character is a young girl, usually it's a little harder to get involved with that versus a story where the main character is a young man like you, right? We're able to relate to people who are like us. You want that story and the character in your story to relate to your avatar, or to have the avatar be able to relate to them. One thing that you can do is you could skip parts of the story to create intrigue. So like if you lead the reader right up to the point of despair or all hope is lost, right? And then you hint that something happens or something transpires, and you skip to the fast forward to the point where they're living the dream. Let's say it's fat loss, right? And we're working with our good friend Amy that we used as an example in these previous little videos. So let's say Amy, she's trying to lose weight. We tell a story about Amy, how she decided she wanted to lose weight. She tried this, she tried that, nothing seemed to work. She stuck on the scale, and it seemed like all of a sudden she found out she gained 10 pounds instead of losing 10 pounds. She just like crumpled in the couch and cried for hours and hours and didn't think she'd ever be happy. And then you say, but then fast forward 5 years, or fast forward 60 days from then, I stepped on the scale and I weighed 40 pounds less than that. I was at my high school weight. I smiled from ear to ear, and I was so glad I had finally discovered the secret to my success, right? Then that little gap, that little fast forward part, creates an instant information gap, right? The reader now is going to have a lot of curiosity to say, well, what happened? What did Amy do to go from this to that? We have this part of the story and we have that part of the story. Where are the missing details, right? That information gap will create a lot of curiosity, and then you can capitalize later in this next section, which is the offer, right? So once you've grabbed their attention, you've told the story, you've taken them through a little part of the hero's journey, you've got them interested in either following the hero and doing what the hero did to get what they got, or they're curious about how the hero did that and are now want to go learn it. Depends on which way you now present them with an offer, right? So once you reach this part of the copy, you simply direct them to take action to either, calm their heightened curiosity. Here, click this link, go find an answer to your question, discover how Amy went from crying on the couch to, making her high school weight in 60 days. Or you direct them to follow the path of the character. So if you tell the whole story and actually say what they did to escape that moment of despair and reach the dream goal, then you then say, hey, click here to use the technique, use the blah, blah, blah technique that Amy used and reach your high school weight too, right? You then ask that you didn't offer them to take the path that's going to give them the same result and to follow that same hero's journey that they experienced when they read the story, right? In the offer, you can keep the CTA similar to the other CTAs as just like in the other short form copy. Again, you want it to be quick and easy. If someone scrolls down the bottom, you want to have basically enough there in the CTA for them to just take action, if that's all they read. And so let me show you an example of some HSO copy. Now I'm just going to show you an email. Again, I've already shown you how to adopt this to Facebook as an Instagram. It's just easier to show you an email right now so you can get a feel for it. The yellow is the hook, the story is in blue, and the green down here is the offer, right? Simple one line. So I'm going to read it just so you can get a feel for it. The subject line, again, this is part of the hook. I hung up the phone and just stared. Earth-shattering moments can go either one of two ways. Again, this is starting at sort of the height of drama, right? That's the kind of opening here to kind of get you interested in reading this. And here's the story, right? So I finally started making real money for the first time in my life. Years of struggle and toil finally paying off in the form of thousands of dollars being wired in my account each month for commission on huge deals I had helped a hotshot marketing agency land. But then came that fateful phone call a month into the bear bug scare that left me rocked. It had all dried up, gone. Because of the supply chain disruptions, my clients were all going bankrupt, and the thousands he owed me simply wasn't coming. In a moment like this, I had two options. I could either give up, go find a job, and say goodbye to my dreams, or I could muster the strength to rise to the occasion and find a way to win. Post-traumatic stress or post-traumatic growth. The choice was mine. Thankfully, I had just stolen a set of mental models that not only gave me the key to bounce back from that dire moment and 10x what I'd been making before, plus reinvent every aspect of my life from the ground up. And I have my friend Andrew Tate to thank for that. Discovered the exact mindset tool I stole from Andrew Tate to build my own success, right? So this is an example of the story, right? And you get the hook, you tell a story, you lead up to a moment, you kind of tease the end, and then you tease that sort of gap, that information gap of what took me from this dire moment to 10xing my stuff. It's this mindset stuff. Here's the offer to go take a look at it. This is, again, a rough example of HSO. This was an email I sent out a long time ago to some of the students in my my student email list. So that's an example of HSO copy. There's a lot of good ways to use it. HSO is a fantastic way to get the reader to experience part of it and to increase their belief in certain things. It's a powerful tool. You'll get pretty good at using the power of story, not only in this short form copy, but in other forms of copy as well. So get practicing with it, get familiar with it, because it's going to be really helpful for you moving forward.